It's 11:59. Hope you feel fine. Are you feeling fine at 11:59? Just joining us, my folks. Here I am at Crownland Productions, and I got a chart that I have some charts to share with you that I wasn't even planning to share with you. Today was the Super Bowl, as you probably know. It's yesterday in a couple of minutes, in less than a minute here, and I didn't really get to watch the whole game through, but I saw that the game was kind of odd, and I've had time. I've had an experience of following your best or your favorite team through an entire season. I've had that experience and watching how the end happened. If you always wonder, did gambling have any kind of influence on how the game actually ended or not? And this I wasn't really emotionally connected to this. I just thought it was kind of weird, but how you're in the overtime experience and you don't call any timeouts, and you don't think out your crucial moments, because fact of the matter is someone's going to win or someone's not going to win, right? And there should be a timeout called. So, there should be some kind of thought pattern happening. I mean, who is allowed to call a timeout on a last play? I mean, can the defense call a timeout? I mean, you got to wonder. The defense is trying to defend the goal, right? But the whole game didn't really sit well with me. I mean, it was a really odd scoring game, so I decided to think about it, because I know gambling happens, and I've seen numerous videos on YouTube about how some people frown at these big games and what goes into these big games, because there's a huge financial exchange happening during a sporting event. And I said, okay, you know what? I'll find out where the game is played, and I'll draw the charts up. And I'll take a look at it. I'll see when the time is declared. What time the win is actually declared, and I'll look at the time when the game starts, and we'll try to spot gambling in the chart. We're just gonna we're gonna look at the event. We're gonna study the whole entire event from the Alpha and Omega. I didn't do the halftime show. I could have probably done the halftime show, but there's enough information right here I'm going to show you right now, which is more than enough to really question. What I have for you tonight is to really put your mind together. Are you going to bet or not? Are you not going to bet? Because that whole entire Pluto underworld is influencing all of us now. It's been 240 odd years since Pluto in Aquarius, since the beginning of the United States of America, and now he's on his return, and there's just that much more underworld because there's just that many more people, and everyone is trying to flip a buck, right? Football players and sportsmen get into what they do because of the financial glory of being number one, right? There's a whole bunch of money involved, and very talented individuals. But the question always underlies us all: are we connected to the gambling of this activity of sports more than the game itself? Is the game becoming corrupt? And you got to wonder all about, because when we look over here on the right side of the screen, and we could bring it over here, we're gonna just so we all clearly understand, as children in astrology, the houses that support betting and gambling are typically the 2nd, 5th, and 8th houses. However, it's important to remember that the influence of these houses can vary depending on the individual's birth chart. Okay? That's all we need to know. 2nd, 5th, 8th houses. These are the houses to look at. Right? So when we look at the second house, we have to remember that the second house is all about self-worth. And at the beginning of this game, where do we have Juno? The individual, that small person, Juno, is sitting there in that house that rules self-worth. The bank, right? And it's opposed to the moon and Neptune at the sporting event, which is Jupiter, right? There's Neptune. There's an escapism. People get in their car and they go to the arena and they're all into this. And there's the escape into the event, right? There's that escape. There's that moment. There's that bubble of the entire event because we will live over that event for the rest of the time, right? The event changes us. We learn something from the event. We experience. For joy. We have this journey into the event, right? It's that ninth house experience. It's foreign affairs experience. And then there's Chiron, there's Aries, and then look at the top of the chart, there's the node. At 16 degrees Aries. Ruled by Mars. And who else? Jupiter. No, the sun. 16 degrees is in the apex of the house, right? Aries, Leo, Aries, Jupiter. That's how Aries is, sectioned up. So there's a node. There's Chiron in the ninth house. This is all Jupiter house, right? It's the Jupiter house with all this watery experiences there and that ninth house experience, right? This is the beginning of it all. But remember, it's the sun that we have to look at. The sun is in the sun. Leo is on the ascendant. The Leo on the ascendant is absolutely conjunct my sun. I have a sun at 2 degrees 34 minutes. And so my sun is just on the inside of that first house of the Aries, right? That's the reason why you're listening to my voice right now. Because I'm going to communicate to you with this. Because there's this whole entire thing happening. Leo is the sign of the stage, right? Leo is the sign of the stage. But it's also the sign of speculation, right? There's that speculative nature about Leo. And why do I say this? Because the fifth house of the zodiac is associated with not only the bedroom, but also speculation. Look at that fifth house. There is Pallas Athena in the house of Jupiter at 1 degree, just past the trade over period. And Pallas Athena is trine the sun. And that is sitting on my descendant, folks. My descendant is 1 degree. My descendant is 1 degree 55 minutes Sagittarius. And my ascendant is 1 degree 55 minutes Gemini. I'm a Leo with a Mercury ascending. I'm a Leo with a communicative box of Mercury. I'm fleet on my feet. I'm quick with my tongue. And I'm plenty young because I'm Mercury and Leo combined. I'm Johnny I Spy. So here we go. I'm going to show you how it all works tonight. Because we got to look at the second house of Juno. And then we have the ninth house, right? The second house, this is like right on the cusp of the second and third houses, right? But look at this 8th house place. Look at this 8th house place, and we have this Saturn that rules debts in the house of Mars and Pluto. That's where Saturn is. And the boundaries are removed. Saturn's deep into Pisces now at 7 degrees. Look at how it works. Do you remember all your players? Now look at the 6th house here. You got the 6th house, you got Ceres in the 6th house. 6th house is the house of Mercury, right? It's that Virgonian house of Mercury. It's that feminine house of Mercury. Where Gemini would be that masculine house of Mercury. So we can look at everything that's happening that's Mercurian about this event, right? That moment of service. There is so much service. It's a jam-packed house of service. And Pluto is sitting there on the cusp of the 7th house. He wants he's etching out of that as soil into the sign of air, right? This is where he is, on that cusp. And there's Pluto. There's Pluto pushing behind, right? And Venus is pushing Pluto. Venus is that vault. Pluto is that engine in that car that's pulling that vault, right? But the vault pushes the car, right? Because it's the gold that could buy the oil, right? Pretty interesting charts, eh? Don't we think? Pallas Athena in the house of Leo, Sagittarius overlap, mass speculation. Scorpio at 26 degrees on the cusp of the fifth house. That's that solar house, right? That sun house. So you got Mars and Pluto influencing that fifth house, that Palestinian, but they got that fire. It's fire. It's that mass fire. It's that all those hearts and all those thighs and all those hips and everything that's pushing those guys forward, right? The legs are moving. It's a football, right? And look at the ninth house. It's a Sagittarius ninth house that's jam packed, and Chiron's in the wounded. And then look at this. You got the Moon and Neptune there, waxing in their new. There's only so many new moons. There's only so many moons that we can count while Neptune is in Pisces. This is one, right? After the game's over, the moon will be, because we can look at this. When we look at this, this is the alpha chart, right? This is the beginning, and once the game is over, right? Time is called, right? Time is called. Everyone, let's cash in. And what's there? What's there, guys? Everyone's cashing in. Time is called, right? The game has been won by the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs, remember, the chief is like the sun, right? And look at this house. Look at this fifth house. Remember, the sun is not at home in Aquarius. The sun is away from his home in Aquarius. The sun is journeying through the zodiac just like we are. And it's in this Aquarius house. It's in this. But see, the thing is, it's in this house of Uranus, Aquarius. But in this location, at this paradise, with Libra on the ascendant, just like Banff has a Libra on the ascendant, and it's a paradise. I mean, the town of Banff is, the town of Banff is drawn, and the ascendant for this town, being the resort that it is 0 degrees Libra, right? It's paradise. So we have to look at the Saturn with the ascendant there. We have to look at the Venus and the Saturn in the chart, because when Venus and Saturn are ruling the first house, and then we have that Martian intertwine, because Mars is the metal of the cash drawer. Saturn is the time and the value of the cash going into the drawer. Right? And look at the dragon's tail. The dragon's tail is absolutely there. In the first house of Mars, there's the dragon's tail. But look at the functioning houses of gambling, right? Because this is the astrology of betting and gambling right here, and its association with sporting events. I mean, how much betting is going on at a musical concert? Okay, there's a bet going on that Madonna's going to twist her toe on her second song, right? I mean, there's no such betting. I mean, if there's some such betting, is that, please let me know, right? Or there's some kind of bet going on that Keith Richards is going to bust 3 strings of his guitar in the third song, Is there such betting? No, but there's more betting with these sporting events than anything. There's betting on all kinds of things, points, what have you, point spreads. I mean, I am so fortunate. I've never gotten involved with it. Being an artist is very there's much speculation in artistry, right? I went to go take ski hill photos, and it was a speculation if the weather was going to be good enough to really have a stellar day with it. Or is the slopes going to be busy? This is a speculation. But this is a Saturn Venus rulership on this chart when the game is over, right? The cash drawer. Mars is on the 7th house. Mars, the Aries sign the Aries sign ruled by Mars is on the 7th house. There's that Chiron wounded thing happening, right? In the 7th house. And then there's that North Node at its apex in Aries. In this house of Saturn and Venus, but we have that Saturn and Venus rulership in this Mars house. I mean, we could look at the activity of these events, right? The Sun is in the 5th house of entertainment and the 5th house of speculation. We have Saturn the sign of debts. Saturn the sign of debts in Pisces, where he's dissolved by Neptune's waters. And then we have the moon with Neptune in the 6th house, ruled by Mercury, in the Virgonian house of Mercury. It's a very interesting chart when you want to look at Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, the sign of Venus, overlapped by the Pluto and Martian house of Scorpio, right? The stinger. The joint resources are a stinger. And look at the squares. Look at the squares of Pluto, right? Because the Pluto is the change, right? The team that loses are the bettors that get the sting of the betting machine, right? This is the 4th house. I mean, you got to be sitting there at the table. You're going to have your beer. You're going to be having your sandwich. You're going to be looking at your wallet, which is 2nd house of Pallas Athena. And you're going to be, paying out that green point, those greenbacks, right? And there's that 8th house, because that 8th house is that joint resources house of Mars and Pluto with a Venus overlap. Venus is the vault. You guys are seeing it, right? I mean, you're looking at this. I mean, it's a reason why I try not to get involved with this, emotionally involved with these, because the only reason why I would absolutely watch such a game is because one of my childhood heroes, Joe Montana, played for the Redskins, right? I don't know if you remember that Joe Montana guy. I actually got to meet him. And, you see one of your childhood heroes, Joe Montana. And you grow up, you're watching these kids, and you're just a kid watching these guys, and you meet him in person, and he's like, wow, right? Holy cow, on the big screen, Joe Montana, he's a moving machine, right? So, guys, watch your games, but don't get too close with these, right? Because unfortunately, like so many things, individuals that are in financial need can be corrupt, right? We have no idea. When you're looking at such a play and you look at the speculation involved, and when Chiron is where he is, you gotta wonder why a game doesn't really go the way you think it might go, right? And then, unfortunately, I really didn't get. I only got to watch a couple scenes of this game, right? I didn't spend any time. I was busy working, but I was in my work. I get to see it on the screen and stuff like this. Watching the numbers play, and you know all about the fiscal transactions that are happening on such a huge game, right? There's a lot of money being made. And it's that whole entire Venus 2nd house and Jupiter, Uranus overlapping a Pluto and Mars 8th house with a Venus overlap. Astrology is so intricate. when you see what's going on there, when you look in that whole entire game, this vision that I have isn't lame because there's some people with some hurting wallets tonight because their favorite team didn't work it out of sight. They didn't quite have the might or the fight. But look, guys, don't bet, man. It's not cool, really, in honesty. The world's filled with change, and a lot of change happened in lots of wallets on this day. And I can't really say. I don't know. I haven't been following football this closely, but when I saw this and I just watched being able to have a slow moment to stand someplace and just view the last few moments of this game, why didn't anyone call a timeout to put together a plan to turn it about, right? Because you got timeouts, to make a turnover happen. I'll let you go, and I hope you got something out of the video, and hope you learned something about gambling and the astrology of it.